Okay, so I'm going to go ahead. My name is Mikkel Benfield. I am an AmeriCorps member serving with Harpeth Conservancy for the year as environmental outreach and communications coordinator. And we're really excited for you all to join us for our March conservation conversations today. So I'm going to give just a quick background on Harpeth Conservancy and our mission, the work that we do, and then hand it on over to our guest speakers for the day that we're really excited to hear from. So Harpeth Conservancy is a science-based conservation organization here in Tennessee, and our mission and vision is to provide clean water and healthy ecosystems for rivers that are championed by the people that live here. So the way in which that we do this, and our goal is that all the rivers in Tennessee meet these required federal and state water quality standards. And we do that in order to protect public health and wildlife throughout the state. So we have this really cool anagram that kind of outlines exactly how we achieve this goal through the word rivers. And so we do that with restoration projects. We take account of pollution problems and issues and find solutions and strategies to address them. We work to provide a voice and make sure that everyone in our community has the ability and access to involvement in this decision process and legislation, as well as educating community members and promoting responsible recreation, and doing all of this through the foundation of science and conducting our own research on water quality and for the sake of public health and wildlife. So we can really take all of our goals and our vision and put it into 4 different categories of work that we're doing with our programming. And that's through clean water protection, community engagement, science and restoration, as well as rural protection and land use. So a couple of the programs that we do with our community members is one, Lessons on the River. And this is a hands-on, in-person activity that we do about once a month. And that's to really get individuals outside on the rivers and engaging with our local green space. So this past weekend, we had a really successful tree planting at L. Burns Park. And we'll be doing another one in a couple of weeks on April 3rd at Mill Creek, which is really exciting because we'll be partnering again with Kathleen, who's speaking with us tonight. So be sure to sign up for that. And in May, with the date that we'll keep you informed of, we'll be doing a river cleanup. And in addition to our Lessons on the River, we have conservation conversations, which we are all excitedly a part of at this very moment. And these take place each month, the 4th Wednesday, and these cover a range of topics that cover, Tennessee rivers and waterways. So today we are talking with women in environmental science, and next month's topic, which we would invite you all to join us for as well, on April 28th, will be invasive versus native species. So taking on the springtime, what should we be planting, what we shouldn't be planting, and hearing from a couple of experts on those topics. So besides taking part of our programming, like our Lessons on the River and conservation conversations, you can take action in other ways as well. We have a Water Reporter app. You can volunteer with us, start your own cleanup, as well as sign up for the specialty license plate, which if you are able to do that and would like to, part of those proceeds do go to Harpeth Conservancy and help us achieve that vision and mission that I just described, and clean water and rivers throughout Tennessee. So you can visit that website right here on the screen, or ask us. And before we get started tonight, we do want to share with you about a really fun giveaway that we're starting today. It goes through Saturday. So we just got new merchandise and we want to share it with all of you, give you a chance to win a free sweatshirt, as you can see modeled in these pictures. So if you visit the Harpeth Conservancy Instagram or Facebook, you will be able to find all the details on how to enter and be eligible to win one of these. So we encourage you to do that. Ask us how. If you need help, we'll be more than willing to direct you in the right way. But yeah, be sure to enter. And that brings us to why we are all here this evening, which is to hear from Crystal and Kathleen. So March is Women's History Month, so we wanted to really embody that theme and provide a platform for women working in environmental science, particularly related to water. So we have Kathleen Dennis with us, who's the director of the Mill Creek Watershed Association, as well as Crystal Bishop, who's a water specialist with Tennessee Valley Authority. So they will be sharing with us their career trajectories, their paths, how they got to where they are, became interested in environmental science, and the specific work they're doing now, as well as how they've been able to navigate this field as women in science. So we encourage all of you to ask them questions, get advice, write them down, drop them in the chat as we go, and we'll have about 20 minutes after they both present to have a really great discussion with them and take advantage of their knowledge and expertise while they're here with us.
Crystal's on my team. She's one of.
So without further ado, we're going to go ahead and hear from Kathleen first. And so Kathleen, you can go ahead and start screen sharing.
Okay, thank you. Let's see. Let me get back to the beginning here. Okay, hi, I'm Kathleen Dennis, and I want to thank the Harpeth Conservancy for giving me this opportunity to talk with you tonight about my journey as a woman through the world of science. I'm going to start with early influences because they were important to my choosing my career trajectory. And I'll then move into a little explanation about the educational requirements to be the type of scientist that I was. I was a molecular and cellular neuroscience for about a total of 35 years, including early research assistant positions early on. And then I segued into watershed science, and I'll explain how I made that transition and why. So I'll work through those studies. I'll talk a little bit about mentors and things like that. And then I'll summarize my first career for you, and then talk to you a little bit about our watershed and what we do. So I grew up in Bowling Green, Ohio, and it was an incredibly accessible town or community for a young person. You could walk or bike everywhere. It was quite beautiful. And I think, really noticed and became very enamored of nature early on in this community. I was able to find remnants of the Great Black Swamp on the edges of town where I would go, and I did a lot of exploring pond water samples and things of that sort. And I think I was influenced a lot by that exposure. And Bowling Green is also the home to Bowling Green State University. And I think this really promoted in me an interest in self-directed study, because I was surrounded by a lot of individuals that were spending a lot of time just pursuing their interests, whether it was in music or art or theater or geology. When you grow up in a community where one of the main industries is learning, you kind of become amenable to that. And I think this influenced my interest in nature. I became to understand at a very young age that this was a study of biology. I had a microscope by the time I was 8 years old, and I was keeping a science journal even at that young of an age. I had some very important mentors along the way early on that really reinforced for me that I, as a young woman, could have a career, a young girl, really. My mom, she was a very influential, in that she spoke to me a lot about wanting to have a job that she enjoyed, not just that would help her support herself, but that she thought it was important for women in any individual to seek out and find a career that you found satisfying. So she encouraged me in my interest in pursuing science, even at this young of an age. My sixth grade science teacher, or actually she was a sixth grade teacher, Sharon Hanna, was also very influential. She took a progressive approach to teaching, where you had a lot of independence, and this really boosted my self-confidence and furthered this sort of self-directed learning. And one of the things I really enjoyed in her class was doing a study on honeybees, which was, the studies of honeybees were really coming out then, and the idea of the dances that they do and things like that. And so that sticks in my memory, that her encouragement and support of my interest in science. The other person that I met, a woman, was early on in my educational experience, was Cindy Grote Stong at the Bowling Green State University Biology Department. This woman came from Massachusetts when her husband took a job as a faculty member at BGSU. She had a master's degree in science, and she started as a lecturer there, but she missed the ocean, and she was very much loved the ocean very much. And she started probably the only landlocked marine biology program in the country. And I met her and participated in a lot of her program when I first started college. And she was also very supportive of young women in science. So these mentors, these women mentors, I think really make a difference in helping you navigate, even at an early age. I think exposure at an early age to, yes, you can do this, is very important, particularly for young girls. I went on, so I started, as I said, at Bowling Green State University, but I transferred fairly early on to the University of California, San Diego. And that's where I became more interested in biomedical research. I met a lot of neuroscientists and started taking neurobiology classes and really developed a strong interest in studying the brain. I worked for a few years after I got my undergraduate degree as a technician in research laboratories there at UCSD to make sure that this was the direction. It was a little bit different direction than I thought I was going to go. And I wanted to get my sort of some background experience in doing guided research and the bench in the research laboratory. And once I did that, I really became, reassured that that's what I wanted to do. And I ultimately applied for and received my doctorate at the George Washington University in molecular and cellular neuroscience. Along this pathway, there are some very important skills that a person needs to navigate an academic research science career, which is what most of the time I've spent my life work on. And those skills include writing skills, both technical and expository. You need to be able to talk about the mechanisms that you're using, your experimental design, but you also need to be able to couch your science in ways that people can understand, either at the academic level or if you're talking to community groups, you want to be able to talk to them or write and make that available to them. Similarly, with speaking, you need to be able to effectively address a variety of audiences, both your academic audiences at the conferences that you attend, but community groups and lay people. There's been times when I've been asked to address groups of people that are in the community as well. Classroom teaching, I did a lot of that at the college level, and I also did a lot of laboratory instruction, either in classroom laboratories or on the bench, where I taught either staff members or graduate students, undergraduate people who were coming in and pursuing science careers as well. Another very important aspect of developing a science career is networking. And this, I really think, I want to emphasize this, because not only do you want to emphasize it with regards to the studies that you're doing, but you also want to reach out and understand and connect with individuals that are navigating their way through a scientific career as well, particularly if they're women, because sometimes they can give you advice and help you work through this community. It's a pretty competitive career. So just to summarize briefly what I did, as I said, I was a molecular and cellular neuroscientist. My focus was on gene expression and regulation in the central nervous system, and that's represented over here by this brain. I studied neurodevelopmental, I studied neurodevelopment, but I also studied neurodevelopmental disorders and neurodegenerative disorders. And some of the things that what I looked at was the regulation of the genes that are in the nucleus of these cells. These are neurons down here. And genes are expressed from the DNA nucleotide sequence. They're transcribed into RNA and then translated into proteins. And the proteins are the building blocks of these cells. The structures, such as the synapse, which is the communication mechanism that a cell's neurons use to talk to each other, and ultimately the structure of the brain. All of these things are important. They're highly regulated with very specific mechanisms, some of which I studied were epigenetic, and this is elements that are outside of the DNA, but definitely very important to regulating the expression of these genes that are telling these cells what to do. And the other thing I studied were toxicological impacts on these epigenetic regulations. And what this is what we call gene environment interactions. the organism or the organ of the brain has to be plastic so that you can learn and respond to the environment. And so I study these elements that help cells respond to what they're experiencing in the environment. And then I also studied how this was related to disease states. Now, this was an incredibly exciting and creative career. It was demanding, but it really let you experience and, challenged you to do some really wonderful, important, like exciting work that was fun to do and very rewarding. However, with every challenging career and competitive career, there is a lot of the competition, and there's a lot of challenges that you experience, and underrepresented groups, such as women, experience those challenges at a more magnified level. And without actually going down that rabbit hole too far, I just want to say that after about 35 years, navigating those challenges were, just wearing on me. And I was also at the same time becoming more and more interested, due to my studies of neurodegeneration and neurodevelopment. I was becoming more and more interested in returning to my interests in the natural world. And I'm also artistic, so I had some artistic interests that I was interested in pursuing. And so I made the choice, which was it was challenging, to step away from my neuroscience career. And mostly I was going to pursue interests in my artistic area of interest, but at the same time I wanted to regenerate some interest in the natural environment. And so I joined the Mill Creek Watershed Association. So I met the crew early on, and they kind of helped me get back up to speed on sustainability and in ecology, and how people navigate in advocating for water, clean water, and good environmental practices in an urban and suburban community. And so I was working with the organization just as a volunteer. We're all volunteers. And then Micah, our director, decided he needed to step down for his own reasons. And I assumed the directorship of the association. And so this kind of gives you a summary of what we now pursue, what we've been doing since about 2009. We're a clean water advocacy group. We've got pollinator gardens that we're working on to kind of encourage people to understand the importance of the environment to clean water, the gardens and the terrain. We've done a lot of weed wrangles and tree plantings and cleanup events. And the thing I'm really excited about right now is that we were instrumental in the town of Nolensville being selected for the EPA Smart Growth Initiative. And they're one of 4 communities that have been selected for this help with flood resilience is what we're going to be working on. We also have some other things we've been doing, dog poop campaign, pickup campaign, trash and litter abatement strategies, and advocacy for conservation development practices in our watershed. Future directions that I see us going are, we'd really like to develop a rigorous scientific water testing program. We have some already some interest and some work on a flora and fauna databases for the Mill Creek Watershed. And then I've been contacted by a molecular scientist and geneticist that is interested in doing some biodiversity studies using eDNA in the Mill Creek. So with that, I just want to thank my Mill Creek Watershed Association. These guys are the heart and soul of this organization. A lot of them have been doing this for a long time. I could not be doing this without them. And with that, I'll just turn it back over to Cal, and thank you very much for letting me share my story.
Thank you, Kathleen. Thank you so much for that. We are now going to turn the time over to Crystal, who's going to share her experiences in the field and how she got to where she is, and we're excited for it. So you can go ahead, Crystal, and share your screen and take it away.
I want to say thank you to the Harpeth Conservancy for allowing me to talk tonight and talk a little bit about my experience navigating the world in environmental science as a woman. I grew up in Ray County, which is in East Tennessee. So my hometown is directly in between the mountains and the Tennessee River. So I had ample opportunity when I was younger to get out and explore the outdoors. And my family loves the outdoors. So that was instilled in me. The importance of protecting the environment and respecting the environment was instilled in me at a young age. And as I began going through high school and navigating how to find out what a college major would be, I kind of had a little bit of a hard time talking about it and finding out what was out there, because this was the time before Google existed. I think Ask Jeeves was probably the search engine that everyone used at the time. The internet was still very new. And I just kind of, seems like I woke up one day and thought, well, I know I don't want to be a veterinarian. That's what I wanted to be when I was younger, but I cannot handle blood. Not from animals. So let's scrap that. Let's start over. What am I going to do? And there was a verse that that has navigated me in making my decisions, and it's Colossians 3:23, which says, "Whatever you do, work at it with all your heart as working for the Lord, not for human masters." And so, with that, I sought out to find what my passion was. And growing up in the outdoors, that was where my passion lied. I enjoyed it. And so I started out at Tennessee Tech to get a bachelor's degree in wildlife and fishery science. And that opened up an opportunity to work at a state park for the summer. I worked at Rolfett Lake State Park, and my summer was amazing. That was probably the most fun job that I've ever had in my entire life. I drove a pontoon boat around on Rolfett Lake and guided a 3-hour tour for tourists and talked to them about the history of Rolfett Lake. And I had a supervisor, his name's David Haggard. And I think most people that have visited a state park or have been around state parks know who he is. He's very passionate about his job. His passion is very infectious. And so that showed me that you can love your job. And I need to find something that I'm going to love and going to be able to work at it with my whole entire heart. So I absolutely love working at Tennessee State Parks. And then when I started graduate school at MTSU, I had another opportunity to work at Henry Horton State Park. And both of those state parks had raptor rehabilitation programs. And the picture that you see in the lower left, that's actually my mom and my dad with me at Rolfett Lake State Park with an owl that we were rehabilitating. And I really enjoyed doing that. And when I graduated from MTSU, I had a master's degree in biology. I studied fish science while I was there, but also had this wildlife, natural resources flavor added in from my experience at state parks. And so I had a decision to make whether I wanted to work full time with state parks. And there was an opportunity with the city of Franklin that was also available with their stormwater program. And I had interned with the city of Chattanooga in their stormwater program. A professor had connected me with Doug Fritz, who was in charge of the stormwater program at the time in Chattanooga. And so I had kind of both, had a foot in each door. And so I just had to decide which door I wanted to go through. And somehow that led me into working at the city of Franklin. And one of my early mentors at the city of Franklin was Dory Bowles, who I know is on this call. She is the executive director for the Harpeth Conservancy. And at that time, it was called the Harpeth River Watershed Association. And I had the opportunity as a young 25-year-old to sit down and learn from her about some of her experience that she had as a woman in environmental science. The city of Franklin is it's well known for its growth and its progressiveness in protecting the environment. So it was an amazing place to work. The city really focuses on developing yourself as a professional and gave me tools to be able to develop as a professional and learn what it is to have a full-time career and make this a career. The coolest project that I worked on while I was there was the Lowhead Dam removal project on the Harpeth River. So I know this organization, it has that project very near and dear to their heart because they were one of the partners on the removal project. And then the other things that I was able to do at the city of Franklin as a stormwater coordinator was start to get involved in professional organizations. And that really, really helped develop me as a professional. I was involved with the Tennessee Stormwater Association. I'm still involved with the Tennessee Stormwater Association. I'm involved with the Clean Water Professionals of Kentucky and Tennessee, and I'm still involved with that organization. The Southeast Stormwater Association encompasses all of the EPA Region 4 area. And I was able to attend several conferences. Franklin really was great about allowing their staff and their employees to seek out conferences to better themselves as a professional, because they wanted you to be an expert and be able to speak intelligently and learn your job in and out and get experience and exposure that you cannot get just in the local government arena. So one of my favorite conferences that I attended was the International Low Impact Development Conference, which was in Seattle. And I eventually ended up co-chairing that conference when it was held in Nashville a couple of years ago. And myself and Rebecca Dawn, who works for the Nashville Stormwater Department and Water Services, she and I led a tour, a green infrastructure tour through Nashville on segways. And that was a lot of fun. And we did a practice run, and it was the middle of August, and we were pouring sweat. And I was like, we really sweat stormwater, don't we? It was a lot of fun. So that was the thing about becoming a professional. I took my passion and then I put it into a profession. And then the next thing that I wanted to do was be able to develop leadership skills and help lead other people through what it is like to be an environmental professional, and then also an environmental professional that's a woman. So I moved from city of Franklin to Hamilton County and was the stormwater manager at Hamilton County for several years. And during that time, I was able to really develop my leadership skills. As manager, I had a team of 7 folks that I was able to lead, and they are shown in this picture. They kept me on my toes, and they really, I had to learn at that time. I was younger than most of my staff, and so I had to learn. You have to get over age, and you also have to get over being a woman that's in the regulatory community, because it is male dominated, and you work a lot with contractors, and that's a male dominated field, and you work a lot with engineers, that's a male dominated field. So I had to learn how to navigate through that. So I was able to do that with the help of the Tennessee Stormwater Association and the help of my leadership at Hamilton County. My staff helped me learn, because they knew, we are a team, we do this together. And then last year I had the opportunity to be involved with Leadership Chattanooga, which is a leadership development program through the Chamber of Commerce. And so this picture at the top right is all the ladies, wonderful ladies that were in my Leadership Chattanooga class. We went to the state capitol last year, the day before everything shut down from the coronavirus. So we were there at ground zero, that we were like in the last class that was able to go. And the books that we were holding are Blue Book, the Tennessee Blue Book, but they were yellow in 2020 to commemorate 100 years of women's suffrage. So we thought, this is an amazing opportunity for us to be here on Capitol grounds to get these books and hold them and have a picture made, because this is a powerful moment. This is an inspirational moment to be surrounded by wonderful women that are in this class. So being a woman leader goes and expands beyond just the environmental field. And I think it's very important that you also have mentors and friendships in your life that help you navigate things just as a leader, not necessarily in environment, but also across, a leader from other organizations and nonprofits. So I've developed really great friendships from that class. And the bottom right corner, that I'm going to say that's photo credit to Paul Davis. I know he's on this call. He used this picture in a presentation of his one time, and I was so flattered. But as part of the Tennessee Stormwater Association, I was president in 2016, And while I was president in 2016, the Stormwater Association was trying to educate and had an effort to educate the state legislature on a bill that was up for consideration. So I had the opportunity to speak on behalf of the Tennessee Stormwater Association during that time at the Senate Ag Commission meeting. So navigating through that was also a challenge. You really have to find that passion. You have to develop your skills as a professional, and then you also have to be a great leader that people look up to and can rely on in order to do something like that. And our stormwater program in Hamilton County received an award for MS4 of the year while I was there, and that was for just the efforts that we put in and into the MS4 community and help guide other communities along. So while I was at Hamilton County, I wanted to make sure that the staff and the team that I led also poured themselves into bettering the environmental community as a whole. So what are the experiences that we can learn from in Hamilton County as a stormwater program that we can pass on to other stormwater programs? Because it's very important to learn from each other. And powerful partnerships is one way that we learn from each other, because we're not on an island, we can't do this alone. And some of the powerful partnerships that I've been able to work with is the Harpeth Conservancy, which I've mentioned, and Waterways is another organization that I have really developed a powerful partnership with. Mary Beth Sutton is the executive director there. When I moved to Chattanooga, Mary Beth helped navigate and connect me with other environmental professionals that were in the area. And I still participate in the Water Professionals Conference. And this picture is a picture of myself and my friend Bree Begley. We were both involved with this conference, and they have a really cool program called Next Round Brewing. And what Next Round Brewing does is it collaborates with one of the wastewater treatment plants in the area to use effluent water to make beer. And this picture was taken in Louisville, and this summer, that conference is going to be in Chattanooga, and so the Water Professionals Conference is partnering with Moccasin Bend to move Next Round Brewing down there and use some of the effluent from Moccasin Bend, and partner with local breweries to use effluent water to make beer. And I tried it; it's not bad. And then the other thing is the Urban Runoff 5K, which is a big collaboration with Tennessee State Parks, Metro Water Services in Nashville, TDEC, the Tennessee Department of Agriculture, and the Tennessee Stormwater Association. And that is to raise money to give out a grant for watershed education in the Nashville area. And partnering like that, you can do more together than you can by yourself. And then now I have stepped into a new role at TVA. I'm a water specialist. I've been there for 4 months, and I'm still involved in the stormwater world, but in a different capacity. And I had spent 15 years as a stormwater manager, and now as a water specialist, I'm expanding my horizons into other areas of water permitting. And I really enjoy it, because I think that you always need to be able to grow and reinvent yourself. It keeps you from getting bored. It makes you better at your job, and it helps grow you as a leader. And I couldn't do any of this without having great mentors and a wonderful support system. Paul Davis is on the call. This picture was taken the day that I was able to give Paul a Lifetime Achievement Award from the Tennessee Stormwater Association. And then Dawn Green and Mary Beth Sutton are on the right. We took a trip to Vermont to look at a grant program that encourages green infrastructure installation at a home ownership level. And when I was at Hamilton County, we modeled a yard certification program off of what Burlington, Vermont had. So we were able to travel together, but both of them have been great mentors to help me. And then the picture on the right, that's all the wonderful ladies in environmental science that I've developed friendship with. And we all took a women's trip together to Biltmore. And it's really great to be able to connect and have relationships outside just the day-to-day office work type environment, and really connect and network with each other. And really what my inspiration is for all of this is my parents instilled in me what it means to work hard, have a good work ethic, and the love for the environment. We took vacations in the mountains, we took vacations at the beach, and my parents have been my foundation for everything through my life. And my inspiration is to make sure that my nieces and nephews have these rivers and lakes and streams and the environment to be able to enjoy it freely, and those mountains and streams stay clean. So I do this for them. So it's their future. So this work helps me make their future better. And with that, thank you very much. I am really excited to be able to answer some questions that hopefully you guys have come up with and talk a little bit more about navigating through these lessons of being a woman in science.
So I think we already have at least one. So, and I think we have several, but one on the chat is, this is a question for Kathleen. This is from Bob Midden. And what do you think is something that we as parents, grandparents, or as community to promote science as a career option for young women and girls? And I think that could go for both of you, but he's directing it at Kathleen. So I'm going to call you out.
Well, I'll take it first, and then Crystal can have a shot at it too.
Yeah.
I think you have to be sensitive as parents or grandparents to a person's interest, a child's interest, and encourage them if they show an interest in science, and encourage them. I mean, and make opportunities available for them. And as far as communities are concerned, I think always making sure that the events that you hold that are related to science are inclusive of all everybody. And so making there's a bit of a I think there's a socialization that we've been dealing with as psychologists and sociologists know that there's a bit of kind of skewing towards men and young boys when it comes to science. And I think just being aware of that and recognizing that you're reevaluating your programs that you're putting together and making sure that they're reaching out to all different groups, underrepresented groups, and both boys and girls. And I think you'll have a better chance of encouraging women in science if you do that.
Crystal, do you have thoughts?
I think that sounds like a great answer. Good
You
job,
can't just
Kathleen.
say that that's what she said, like
Yeah. But, and think too about beyond grandparents and parents. They may see what their child really enjoys and has aspirations for at home, but I think it's also important for teachers to notice when children are really excited about a topic, especially about science, and try to do the best that they can to give opportunities and provide opportunities and show those to young women and encourage them to go into the science field if that's what their aspiration is.
All right, we have a couple more questions in the chat as well. I'll read them off. One is from Julie, and this is for either or both Kathleen and Crystal. So you both mentioned that networking was key to helping your careers. And as someone trying to take the first steps into the environmental water management industry, what types of organizations and involvement do you suggest diving into? And then second part, additionally, how has COVID changed the ways in which that networking takes place?
I'll take this one first. If you are in a school that has a student chapter of a national organization, that is the perfect way to get plugged in. I'm going
to interrupt you, Crystal. What are some examples of national organizations that you would?
Yeah, I was going to say that. Thank you. Yeah. So the Clean Water Professionals of Kentucky and Tennessee has student chapters at the University of Kentucky, the University of Tennessee,